Was Arkansas women's soccer faking injuries against BYU? Happy Friday and welcome to Cougar Metrica, BYU football, basketball, and soccer analysis for intelligent fans. My name is Nelson. On Tuesday, September 2nd, BYU and the University of Arkansas squared off in women's soccer in Provo. The match remained scoreless until the 80th minute when Arkansas's Kendall Ewards headed in a laser corner kick from Kennedy Ball. Arkansas eventually hung on and won 1-0. What stood out, though, was what happened in the final 5.5 minutes. During that stretch, Arkansas had five separate injury stoppages. That extraordinary amount naturally raises the question, were all of those injuries real? In NCAA soccer, the clock stops for injuries, so they weren't directly milking the clock. So what incentive might a team have to go down? It could disrupt BYU's rhythm, forcing them to reset their attack. More likely, it might have been a way for Arkansas players who looked exhausted to buy time for substitutions. We can't answer that question definitively. Furthermore, even if injuries were exaggerated, that does not mean that BYU would have tied the game or won. But we can answer a narrower question. How likely is it that all five injuries occurred naturally, organically? Fortunately, we do have an idea of how often injuries happen in NCAA women's soccer. A peer-reviewed article by Avinash Sandran and colleagues published in the Journal of Athletic Training provides exactly that. Epidemiology of injuries in National Collegiate Athletic Association Women's Soccer, 2014 to 2015 through 2018 to 2019. The soccer season spans like late, like from the fall to the spring. So that's why it's worded like that. So let's take a look. So according to the article, there's 15.35 injuries per 1,000 exposures in NCAA Division One women's soccer. This only includes competitions. They perform the calculation separately for practices. So the 95% confidence interval runs from 14.13 to 16.57. And one exposure is defined as one athlete performing in one athletic event, right? So if it's the whole team, it has to be like 11 or something. And this number has often been criticized because it doesn't account for how long the athlete played in the event. Did they play the whole game? Did they play half the game? 5 minutes? They could be sitting on the bench most of the time. But this is what we have. So in Arkansas, I looked on their website and they have 29 players. And in the box score, it showed that 21 played. And based on the box score, 16 were playing in the last 9 minutes and 14 seconds. So we go with that 16 figure because that's what these numbers measure. So we want to be consistent. And so the expected injuries for the time remaining, we would take 16 because the 15.35 over 1,000, that's for one player, right? So there's 16 players. You multiply by the rate, which is 15.35 over 1,000, and then you multiply by the proportion of the game time remaining, and the number we get is 0.025196.7, which is about 2.5%. Or excuse me, 2.5 injuries for 9 minutes and 14 seconds. And so when we want to test the likelihood of an unlikely event happening, we use a Poisson distribution. The figure that Avinash Chandran gave is it's a normal because if you get a lot of events, like someone at work told me like over 30, you can use a normal distribution, but when we're testing unlikely events, we use a Poisson. So it's kind of like how if you look outside your window, right? The Earth is flat, but if you zoom out and look at it from outer space, it's round. Same thing. So this is the formula for Poisson. The lambda is the average, the mean, and we got that from the article from our calculations. And here is this is how you implement this in R. I will post a link to the R file in GitHub that I'll have a link to in on YouTube. Okay, so this is the results, right? Probability of one injury in 9 minutes and 14 seconds, 0.025, 0.024569, so forth. And so about 2.5% of one injury happening. Probability of two injuries happening, 0.000309, so about 0.03%. Probability of three injuries in 9 minutes and 14 seconds, 0.00000025999. So about 0.0000259%, 0.00026%. A probability of four injuries happening in 9 minutes and 14 seconds, 1.64 times 10 to the negative 8. And what happens? Probability of five injuries happening in 9 minutes and 14 seconds, 0.0000, it's 8.25 times 10 to the negative 11th. So that's about 1 in 12.1 billion chance that you have five injuries in 9 minutes and 14 seconds of NCAA women's soccer. So you can draw from that whatever conclusion you want about the coach's motives. We don't know, but that's the likelihood. So that concludes my analysis. If you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. Thank you.